Hello, it's JG Boccella. How's everybody doing? I just wanted to jump on here and share this idea of how do we really make change after this whole Starbucks situation, and what's the real lever for change. I want to talk about a real lever for change. So first of all, I just want to say, number one, we need to stop and recognize how absolutely insane this is. The racial profiling, not just in Starbucks, but where all the places racial profiling has existed, continues to exist. That and because what I'm saying is that a lot of these conversations that are happening get into this procedural, legalistic, and it's like, well, there was a man, and did he buy something? Did he not buy something? Was he? And we can't have any of that normalizing. We have to just, because that's part of the denial. Excuse me. We can't play that game of, because we all know it's absurd and insane that these two young men were in a Starbucks for a meeting, waiting for their third party person to join them, and were handcuffed. So like, we have to, that's important though. It's not just a word, insane. It's nuts. It's insane that, first of all, that the manager at the store called 911 within 2 seconds of seeing these black men. That is insane, and it's unacceptable. So it just in terms of from a corporate standpoint, it's equivalent to any other unethical behavior that's wrong, like stealing. You would never say, well, did he know it was wrong to steal, or it was only his first time stealing, so maybe we'll work. No, you can't steal and stay at a company. So that's the top-down leadership kind of stuff that has to happen. It has to be seen through a lens of ethics. This is not okay, it's wrong, period, boom. Okay, so there's that level. But the other level of the insanity factor, okay, is that these men should not have been handcuffed. 911 should not have been called. They shouldn't have been handcuffed. They shouldn't have been arrested. They shouldn't have been detained. They shouldn't have been taken out. Okay, they were charged with what? And it's a legalistic thing. And so the gentleman from the police got on and said, well, they did nothing wrong. Our officers, this was legal, and it was under the thing of trespassing. So this is legalistic thing. Well, but it's not an equally applied justice. So it's not real justice. You can't have all these other people who happen to be white sitting there doing the exact same thing and not get arrested. And these other people are arrested and then claiming, well, technically no. The police do not serve as a company's personal security system or that decides to who's going to stay in their store and who's not. That's not the role of the police. The police are there to stop crime. Okay, so here's the thing. When they arrived on the scene, they should have assessed the situation, which they do all the time, and the officers need to be empowered to do that, to come on the scene and say that a crime is not occurring here and there is not a need to arrest anybody. And just because somebody said these men were here and didn't order, well, what's the law? Does the law state you have to order it in 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 2 minutes? Is that a law? That's not like stealing something from a store, which is illegal. There's no law that says if you don't order from a store in 1 minute or 6 minutes or 8 minutes, you're breaking a law. So that's a specious argument. It's a specious argument to say that they should have been arrested. They should not have been arrested. And see, that's the thing. All people, we need to call that out and say that it's insane that these men were handcuffed and taken out. So that, number one, it's important, that insanity piece, because otherwise they're just levels of denial and it doesn't change. Now here's the other thing. Okay, instead of the unconscious bias training, or I should say in addition to it, because it is important to learn about our unconscious biases. We all have them to greater or lesser degrees. Greater or lesser degrees we are examined or unexamined. So unconscious bias training is important and useful and helpful. But in terms of, here's my idea that I want to put out there for change. When we're talking about where's the lever for change, See, because a lot of times the unconscious bias training is like, we're going to train all the employees. And some of our employees may be somewhat racist, or some may be not very much, some may be in the middle, but you're casting this wide net. So that's fine on one level for this baseline thing. But where's the lever for change, okay? So here's an example. Notice in the video, okay, that there were a few white people in the store who actually spoke out. The guy was coming to meet them, the other people who stood up in the midst of that and said, wait a second, these gentlemen aren't doing anything wrong. I was here the whole time. Nobody did anything. Now here's the thing. I don't know those folks, so maybe they all are full-time civil rights activists, but I have a feeling odds are they're quote-unquote regular people, or odds are they're not full-time civil rights activists who do this for a living. And that's a really salient point. And the reason it's a salient point is because those are the folks in the middle, white people in the middle of this spectrum, and I call them the hidden demographic, who aren't necessarily activists or academic working on racial and gender equity full-time, but who are quote-unquote regular folks doing other things with their lives or whatever, who were saying, wait a minute, you know, you can have opinions on all kinds of different subtopics under race and other issues that are related, but they're just saying, no, like, this is not okay. This is not okay. So, and it doesn't mean that everybody needs to do it in the exact same way. You know, people, not all white people have to get up and scream from the hilltops, this is not okay and I'm going to march, because there might be somebody who's personally shy of any race. So the shy person, so who's also in this hidden demographic, who's in the middle, maybe is an attorney, or maybe somebody who can do something behind the scenes or in a more quiet way that says, I do not go along with this insanity. I won't, this is wrong, period, point blank. You know, stealing is wrong. These are things that are against the law, things that are wrong. Well, this is wrong. It's not okay. So that's really what I want to see happen. And this is really an invitation to all the white folks who are out there, who you don't have to be a professional civil rights, right? Know all the language, know the whole lexicon, be able to discuss it comfortably in front of a crowd of people. I'm going to talk about race now. You don't have to. Let's empower all of us, and ourselves, all of the folks who would be there, to say, in whatever form that takes, no, I won't sign off on this. And speak out in whatever way possible to say no, and unqualified no. Not a like, well, I don't know, maybe it's something we don't know, more information, blah, blah, blah. And frankly, those are the people who aren't ready to say full on no. So the folks who stood up and said in the moment and said that, there are millions of other white people across the country, I believe, who would do the same thing. That's our lever for change. We need an invitation. Really, it's open to everybody, but really specifically aimed at those folks in that middle, and what I call that hidden demographic of folks, those folks, an invitation to them to say, let's just say no to this. You don't necessarily have to march. You don't have to be an expert, but let's all unify and say, nope, not okay. So, some food for thought.